I've always hated the SEO tricks, the little things you do. What's like the one trick I do to get on the top? Like it's just clickbait and it's stupid.
Hey everyone, so Google is admitting that the AI overviews is reducing traffic to people's websites, but they're making the claim that the click that comes from the AI overview is actually more qualified. Does Google have any data to back this up? Well, I've brought in another SEO expert to discuss this at length, so let's get into it. So there's a recent article that just came out on Search Engine Journal called Google Claims AI Search Delivers Quality Clicks Despite Traffic Loss. And so I've actually brought somebody on here with me. This is Matt Sechrist. He's the co-founder here at BKA Content and has been doing this for a long time, just as long as I have. We've got about 15 plus years here in the industry. But we've actually compiled a list of questions of viewers and people who have been reading about this, talking about this for the last little while. And so we wanted to discuss some of these questions together. But yeah, let's get right into it. So this article obviously is Google giving us their 2 cents. If you've been in this industry at all for a long time, you know that Google sometimes says one thing and does another, vice versa, right? So kind of the very big question, the big one, right? So this user says, we've heard about Google's new AI search features. Have you seen any impact on website traffic or SEO results yet? So how would you answer that, Matt?
I do have some data. I mean, we went through some of our clients. I know, Greg, you and I had looked at this previous to this discussion. And again, this article talks about basically Google is defending that maybe clicks are down, but the clicks are better. Okay, that's kind of the overall gist of that article. I'm sure we'll go through that kind of piece by piece. This is the impressions, overall impressions. That means I'm getting served up on searches by keyword queries that people are typing in, but you can see our clicks have noticeably gone down while our impressions have gone up. So we are being seen more, but the people actually clicking in to our site has gone down.
I think just, when you look at that graph again, right? Like there's been this switch, right? You had clicks were higher than impressions, right? So lots of people were clicking on the link to get the information, but you can see that now that has reversed. And basically what everybody's saying online, which I agree with them, for certain sites like ours, which is informational, that has reversed because the AI overview is now just giving them the information. So you're still getting the impressions, especially if you're coming up in the AI overview, but you're not necessarily getting the clicks, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing that spread. And there's been a lot of people online showing their graphs that look a lot like that, where it's just this gigantic spread between impressions and clicks.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I know, we look at this every day, and I know we've had conversations throughout this transition of like, hey, why are clicks down? What can we attribute it to? And I think it is fair to say it is due to the AI overviews and how it's shown. And I do think information heavy sites, B2B type sites, or service based, companies that have a longer sales cycle where people need a lot of information, a lot of touch points before they make a purchase. I think this is going to be the new reality, because I think with an AI overview, it's able to scan, and they say fanning, right? It's fanning lots of sites to get you a more accurate answer. Because in the past, right, if you had a very specific question and there wasn't a piece of content that exactly answered that question, you would click into the sites to say, hey, is there something in that article that better tells me, my answer to my question? If it doesn't, you bounce, right? That's where Google talks about this, like people staying on page is probably a really good metric to watch. If your clicks coming in, if people stay on page longer, it means that they were more qualified before they came in, right? Where bounce rate was probably higher before because people didn't know where the answer was. They didn't know if it was on your site. But what AI overview does really well that I think can be beneficial, in light of what Google's saying, is if AI can take a lot of information from a lot of sites and give them a more direct answer to their query, and then they click on your site, they've already kind of answered their question, and now they see that you're potentially the solution. So
let's talk about that really quick though, because it's interesting in this article, right? Like Google says, quote, when they get to a decision to check out, it's more highly qualified click, right? So what we hope to see over time, and we don't have any data to share on this, is more time spent on site, which is what we see organically in a much more highly qualified visitor for the website. So they're basically saying AI overview, according to them, is increasing queries by 10%. So they're saying somebody asks something, the AI overview gives them an answer, which means then they're going to ask the AI again for something else. By the time they've asked 10% more questions, they then click and that link is more qualified. So again, Google has no data to back this
Yeah.
up. They're just giving that information. What sort of data would Google even be able to get to show that? Because they're not tracking people's sales, they're not tracking people's calls, leads. I mean, it's kind of just a general marketing rule, right? That if you get more attention, you're probably going to get more leads and sales down the road. So I know that's a
Yeah.
little bit of a loaded question, but what is your 2 cents
Yeah.
on that?
I mean, that is the question, right? Like every business owner, you want to track. I mean, you need metrics, right? You need to track ROI. And I do think this makes that even harder. It is a shame they don't give us data on what clicks came from AI overviews versus, organic results in the SERPs. But I do think in theory, I think they're right. I do think, I mean, I've looked at my own search patterns. I do ask more questions. I do hate that every organic result is a Reddit thread. Like that is sort of annoying because I can't trust it. I mean, it is nice because they'll ask a question I actually had, but there's no credibility to a lot of the answers, so it's kind of a dead end most of the time. But I do think where the AI gives me a more specific answer, I can refine my question, and then I get to a result that's closer to what I intend to get. To your point, there is no data, so that is hard. I do think that metric though of time on page is probably a good metric, or to kind of what you're saying, a conversion in relation to traffic that comes in. There's probably a ratio there that could be considered as far as quality of clicks. But yeah, I mean, dude, that's been the thing with SEO forever, though. There's so much more than just getting to the page. The SEO does for you between branding, even in that AI overview, right? Like, let's say you have 8 touch points before you purchase this service. If you're consistently finding the same cited resource on all the answers in your AI overview, when it comes time to purchase, you've seen the name, you trust the name, the brand, like that's all done because you optimized your content, provided good content, albeit Google stole it and used AI to serve it up instead of going to your page, which again, there's ethical things there. But in the end, I do think people understand what the AI overview is doing. And when it comes to actually purchasing or taking an action, they have to go to a company or a person. And that's where those clicks are potentially more qualified.
And I guess let's talk about that really quick, right? Like for an industry like ours, a service industry, I think it does make this effect where people don't see the clicks coming in, but in other industries that's not the case. For example, like a transactional type of business like an RV park or a dentist or something like that. So, do you want to maybe just show a couple of your graphs that you have that kind of show that data is a little bit different for certain industries? It's not necessarily the same for everyone that, AI
Yeah.
overview is taking all their clicks away.
Absolutely. And I think too, the thing to remember, right? The one that I have up right now, again, is our website. We are a B2B longer sales cycle type service. Okay. So we're very information heavy. There's lots of touch points before someone comes in and decides to interact with us and get a free site audit or whatever consultation. So I mean, what's funny is we're already used to that, right? The sales cycle is longer. So B2C type companies or purchases that are more of an impulse buy that don't take as long of a sales cycle, I'm not seeing the same data, right? We did look, ours does track that way, but we are information heavy. There's lots of questions to be asked about SEO and PPC and digital marketing, right? So there's a ton of rabbit holes to go down before you decide who you're going to use for that. But for instance, if you're like you talked about, if you're a dentist or an orthodontist, and again, even this one is a little bit longer sales cycle. This is an orthodontist, a local orthodontist that we've worked with over the last year. And as they go, it is kind of evening out. Even most recently, it looks like the search volume the search impressions are outdoing the click. So there is a similar thing going on here. It's not as dramatic as ours. But again, I do think the longer sales cycle B2B type business is probably the one that's going to see that the most. It's a slightly longer, you're not buying a t-shirt, right? You're spending a lot of money to get your kids braces or whatever. But you can see that is kind of tracking, but maybe not quite as starkly as ours, a B2B service. So let's go. Here's a university that we do work for. Again, this is a longer sales cycle, right? Kids are taking all year to decide where they're going to, or it's an adult that's going back to school to complete a program or something. you can kind of see the same thing here. Their search impressions again have gone up over time. We have been doing SEO work for these guys, and their clicks have remained relatively the same, but in relation to the search impressions, they've gone down. So again, that might be another thing to consider. Have your clicks actually gone down, or have your impressions just gone up? Like, is AI overview actually giving you more exposure, but just your clicks haven't gone up yet? Because
I mean, it's pretty clear that impressions are up and
yeah,
clicks are down, right? Like that probably is across most, if not all, industries, just because of the impact of AI overview. So, I mean, that kind of leads into the next question, right? So, as SEOs, as content creators, as business owners, like, how should people be thinking about this? Like, is AI summaries going to hurt their business, or is it going to help them, or do they need to think about it differently than that?
yeah, I think that's a good question. I think maybe I'll frame it in the questions I've been getting from clients, and that is, what do we need to do to optimize for the AI overview? We've heard that a lot, which I find a little bit funny, because if you're already doing good marketing, good SEO, you really have nothing to worry about. Like all these examples that I've just shown, we've been doing, white hat, just solid overall marketing, digital marketing methods to enhance exposure through, quality, valuable content across different mediums. Like we're trying to answer people's questions, you know what I mean? And we're trying to do it in a way that provides value, and people feel like they got something from it, right? And we're being rewarded by being shown on the AI overview. Now, in that article, it does talk about a couple specific things. And what's funny is we literally talked about these things in the last couple, like these are things that we do. So it is kind of reaffirming that, again, these are, and we've seen the results, right? We see the results in our clients' graphs, but Google also highlighted these three things as well. But number one is that content that directly answers user questions. And this is a little bit of a loaded thing. Old SEO was like, let's say anything and everything about that query. Like we found our keyword query and we're going to write a freaking novel about everything about that. Where people have a question, right? They want the answer. So don't jerk them around. Like the idea is to answer that question directly. If it's a more complicated question, you can have a more, thorough, longer answer. But ideally, if you have a specific question, you found that as a query you want to target, answer that question and make it be something valuable. And that's really, I mean, that's how you used to get shown on the Google answer box. It's the same for the AI overview, right? They're going to take the most succinct, valuable answer to a question, and that's what they're going to cite. So that's number one. Actually, I'm going to skip the other, or not skip number two. I'm going to put it number three. But the second one was developing detailed FAQs and Q&A sections. Man, we've seen this be really helpful. This is really good on like a location page on your site that maybe answers lots of questions about your service in that location. We've also seen this really good about just service type pages alone. Like, hey, I do, to use us as an example, we do link building. Well, what's the cost of link building? How long does link building take? What kind of results do I get? Like all those questions, you're going to answer some of that as you explain what the service is and like your main page, but adding an FAQ at the bottom of the page where you can ask the specific question and then put the specific answer. It's a fantastic catch-all. Again, it doesn't work on every page. You're not doing that on blogs, but like you have certain pages that are about key parts of your business, a service or location page, where I think those FAQs make a ton of sense. And it's just a way that you can capture more AI overview, simple question answer type content. The third one on here, and I'm gonna let you talk about this one a little bit, Greg, but is adding video content. Now, we've been a content based agency, digital marketing company for a very long time, 15 years. Early on, all we did was written content. We've since pivoted and we do a ton more video content. And man, the results are compelling. They're overwhelming that right now video content is getting a lot. Basically, it's getting a lot of it's being rewarded by Google. Sorry. It's being rewarded and it's being shown. And I think there's two reasons for that. Number one, people in this new AI landscape, I think they crave human connectivity, right? And that's not new. Like brands have done this forever, right? They've paired with influencers and movie stars to say, hey, I'm gonna take someone that you trust, I'm gonna put it in front of my brand, and then you're gonna buy my stuff. Well, in this day and age, it doesn't even have to be a movie star. It doesn't have to be someone super famous, right? That can still be a marketing strategy depending on what you're selling. But the idea is having a human behind the robot, right? Like just because the AI overview got you most of the way there, you still need to purchase from somebody, and you're going to purchase from somebody you have a connection with. And if you've watched a video that is at the end of that kind of AI exploration phase, and you get to a video to someone who answers your questions or answers similar questions, not only do you look at them as an authority, you're going to go back to them if you have questions, or if you need to purchase, you're going to purchase from somebody that you feel like you have some sort of connection with. So video content, especially with a face on it, right? You can make video content that has no face. There is still some value there, but you're still kind of hiding behind the wall of a screen, where if someone can see your face, trust what you have to say, that launches you to the next stratosphere of the funnel of being able to get someone to purchase your product or
And
service.
I think it just makes a big difference too, because I think AI overview is training people on how to look for information, right? Like for the
Yep.
longest time, we've all been trained on Google for those 10 blue links, right? Like that's how you find information. That's fundamentally changing now. Like the robot is telling you the answer. And so then it's on you at that point to kind of vet the information that the robot got you. And how do you do that, right? You can click the link to see, but it's almost like video is now like the next thing that the robot isn't able to create right
Yes.
now, that gives you some additional context. So like I think that that is really interesting. Now SEO is changing from just 10 blue links to being about real estate on that first page of Google, because AIO is there. You could have a link inside of the AIO, that's some real estate. You could also be listed in the top 3 links now that only show above the fold on the first page now. And now Google is even showing YouTube videos as its own section. So, and if you did paid ads, I mean, that would be 4 potential places that you could get on page 1, where before you weren't able to do that. You were only able to really get that, maybe the snippet, maybe that, top 10 blue link, and you were good, unless you were doing ads. You could have 3 at the most, but now you can have 4 with YouTube. So, yeah, I think YouTube is just a great way, and Google just seems to really be championing that right now. It seems like they're really pushing adding video content to the page, and I think they're doing that because I think people are just changing the way that they accept the answer. Like I see it from AI overview. Well, maybe I actually want to watch a video about it and learn even more about it. So, yeah, I think as far as the question is of like what can creators do or SEOs do to create content now in this new AI overview world, I think video content and diversifying is what SEO is really morphing into and evolving into.
Again, it probably should have always been this way, but I think it's easy to kind of narrow in and say, hey, this is the one path I take for SEO, and it's just through Google with content on my site. And even then, people aren't even on that train. But you know what I mean? It's easy to say, I've got paid ads here, I've got Google SEO here, and I don't want to cannibalize myself, so I'll just do a single post. I think that idea of claiming more real estate through different mediums is awesome. And I think, like you said, paid ads, we're big proponents of that, especially, you know, when you need sales quickly, you gotta make up, and you're doing SEO at the same time. You need both, right? Both help boost you up. But I do think the videos, yeah, that's been a surprising one, where I think it's like you said, people want a different way to learn. I think if you can show them and not just tell them, that's always powerful. And then I think there's also still that human connectivity where people feel a connection to somebody if they can watch them and they just trust what they have to say versus, there still is that thing with AI, and there probably always will be there, where you still get the answer, but you're not sure if it's a reliable resource. So I think if you see somebody actually do it and see that it can be done, I mean, that's going to be the best way to answer anybody's question. But yeah, I love that, especially, I mean, even just those 3, right? Like a really good page on your site or blog that answers the question, you could get in the AI overview, and you could get on the search engine results. I mean, you could get in actually one of the blue links, or you could be a people also ask. I mean, there's a few places you could get there with written content. You have your video section, which now is highlighted, just like you said, pretty prominently. And then, paid ads is a third one that you can get on the board, and you're not cannibalizing yourself. You're just expanding your real estate. And again, if somebody gets on and sees 3 resources on that page are from your company, and it's not just paid ads. I know people are pretty conditioned to look past the paid ads immediately, but if you have 3 spots on there, it's hard to deny that Google or the AI overview, however you want to look at it, didn't do its research enough to find you. Like you're obviously talking about that thing, so you should be considered. So
No, I think that's true. So there's two questions I have left. The second to last question is, if your organic traffic drops because of AI overview, should you be planning to spend more time on paid ads to maintain visibility, or what are the things that you can do to maintain visibility? And I know that we've kind of had this discussion previously, but I do think the metrics of what people are going to be tracking are going to need to be changed, meaning the weight on those, right? Like traffic had most of the weight of what people were considering success with SEO. But I think that's going to need to change a little bit. Clearly, you can see that impressions now are going up, clicks are going down, you know, pretty much across the board for people with AI overview. So, really, I think number of touch points, impressions, real estate, making sure that you're more places than just a one blue link on the top page of Google is kind of where that starts. I mean, what do you kind of think about that?
yeah, I think that's really smart. I think in well, there's two parts to that. I think with paid ads, I don't think the answer is to spend more in paid ads. And here's the reason why. The keywords that you're targeting with a paid ad campaign are already transactional or commercial type intent keywords, meaning someone's probably looking to buy something. And already the AI overview is not, people aren't, at least I'm not. I don't go look at the AI overview and say, "Hey, tell me who to buy from," and it tells me, and then I buy from it, right? If I'm looking for a company, I'm looking for a company. So if you can get on the first page of Google, that's just going to be the best place to be. So, but I do think impressions, that's where console's kind of nice. You can see impressions. I do think using tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs to see keywords ranking, again, I think that's a really good metric to show momentum of like, look, I'm ranking for more keywords, which means I'm going to get more impressions. I'm going to have more, more pull online. But traffic, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if you have additional insight into a separate metric, but I do think you got to at least look at both, right? It can't just be traffic alone. I think that's a misnomer, but maybe in relation to impressions, keywords ranking, and traffic, and then probably some conversion metrics if you have that set up on your site to see, if they are more qualified clicks, even though you're not getting more of them.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, right? Like SEO is always about getting traffic, but SEO is still very effective even in this new AIO landscape for impressions, right? Like there is still a lot of gains to be made with SEO by winning keywords and getting impressions. And really, the exact same way that you get to the top of Google traditionally is the way that you get in the AI overview. There's been a lot of I don't want to call it snake oil, but there has been some stuff out there that's like, oh, it's just literally a schema thing that you have to do and
Yeah.
magically you'll be at the top. Like, no, that's not how it works at all. Like, it's still the same traditional methods because Google's about trust. They're not just going to put somebody that they don't trust at the very top in the AI overview because they put one super tiny thing in their meta schema. Like that's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
it is important to make sure that you're still doing the traditional things. It's just now it's like, are we seeing the overall lift? Are we getting seen? Are we getting enough impressions? And hopefully that's going to lift, leads and sales and all those things down the road. But it might be a little bit muddy here in the next little while of, well, did this traffic actually equate to this, or was it just my exposure or my impressions that led to this? And I do think that that will be kind of the way that this evolves, into the near future.
No, I like that. And I would just add to that. I think with what you're saying, I think I've always hated the SEO tricks, the little things you do, the knee jerk reactions people have to any change where they go, oh, well, this is new. What's like the one trick I do to get on the top? Like it's just clickbait and it's stupid. But I do think this does weed even more of those things out, right? Like you have to have a more holistic view with your digital marketing. Like in the past, you could have gone after a search term that was just tangentially related to what you do and gotten a ton of traffic, and that looks good on a report, like, well, look, we got you all this traffic. But again, if it's not qualified traffic, like who gives a crap? And ultimately it may end up hurting your profile. If you're I referenced this earlier. We used to rank for a bunch of grammar because we used to do a lot of writing. We had a lot of grammar blogs on our site, which are again tangentially related, but it hurt our site because Google looked at us as a dictionary.com. I'm just saying there's like a relevance, like staying true to who you are, and looking holistically at your marketing. Like, what can I provide that actually provides value to the people that will buy my product or service, and stay within that lane instead of going after, you know, the flashy simple trick that gets you a ton of traffic. But if it's not qualified, again, it won't do you any good. And it's always been that way. So I think just more than ever, even with this, right? Like you have to provide valuable things so that when people do get to your site and to what you're saying, your foundation has to be set. You have to have a site that accurately talks about the things that you do, utilizes keywords correctly so that when people do get to your site, they know what they're getting and what they're doing, right? Some of that is you would think is marketing 101, but people don't do that. So I think that's where the SEO still becomes important as this foundation of growth. But yeah, it's no longer like these are the SEO tips and tricks that get you to the top of Google. I don't think that matters anymore, at least not as much as it did.
It kind of just comes off as lazy, right?
Yeah,
Like it's like the get quick rich sort of thing.
exactly.
It rarely ever works out. It's usually always too good to be true. It's the same way when it comes to traditional SEO. So with that being said, I mean, a lot of people sensationalize AI overviews. They sensationalize AI, just as a whole. But honestly, I think that's a little bit dangerous if you take that sort of viewpoint right now, because if you feel like SEO is dead or SEO isn't working anymore and you pull back, you're literally just giving your competitors an open door to be able to move ahead of you, because Google still has a massive market share. There are still a ton of people that use Google. I mean, they're well over 89% right now of the search market share. ChatGPT is creeping in, it is taking it, but it's not going to take it overnight. You know what I mean? And I think people who stop focusing on SEO, again, even just for the impressions, even though traffic might be going down, I think that's a huge mistake for anybody to do that, because you're just, again, you're pulling back, you're giving your competitors an opportunity to get ahead of you.
And I think in light of that too, Greg, I think people are already doing it. That could be a reason why, almost all these clients I've shown that where the search impressions have gone up, like we are getting market share on being discovered. You know what I mean? I do think people have done that. They're going, AI overviews, taking that over, and they're kind of giving up on their SEO efforts a little bit. So in that sense, I do think there is opportunity right now, right? Like if you need more clicks and it's less than it used to be, well, now you need more exposure ultimately. So if people are giving up, like now's probably a fantastic time to get back on that boat.
It's the perception that it's too hard, right?
Yeah.
Like if SEO is perceived as, oh, it doesn't work or it's too hard, you have people that pull back. Now's the right time to get into it. It's the same thing with video. Video is hard to do, but you're rewarded very highly right now on Google search if you make a YouTube video about literally anything, right? Like if you make a targeted video, you can get to the first page of Google with relative ease, whereas before that wasn't even really possible to do. So with SEO, traditional SEO, and just expanding the viewpoint, right, of like, well, it is more than just a link. It's about real estate and taking up more real estate spots on that first page. I think that would be the recommendation that I would give people right now is don't pull back, but double down on the things that are working right now, which is traditional SEO for impressions and exposure and clicks, as well as video content.
Yeah, I would agree. And like I said, I think it's a holistic approach too. It's not just traditional SEO, right? It is different marketing mediums like paid ads. Again, I don't think they're any more or less important. I think what the AI overview does confirm is that it'll just continue to be important to have paid ads, for the terms that work for you. But yeah, the landscape is changing for how people get information. So I think that just means the definition of SEO is changing a little bit. Instead of it being maybe just words on a page, it's more about like, well, what pages do I need, to help answer questions or to make sure that I'm offering the things that my customers want, and do those pages have the right words on them that tell my customer what they are and also tell Google how to find it. You know what I mean? It's more that sort of SEO, this foundational SEO, and then finding new opportunities that way too. I love looking at SEO as more a way to do market research. What are people searching for in my industry? Like there's tons of people searching for stuff, and it's something that I do, but I've never looked at it that way. Now that's a new opportunity for me to go after. And I like looking at it that way versus like you're gaming the system using a word a million times. Like we've never been proponents of that sort of SEO.
So, last question. I mean, if you could just quickly sum up or finalize what your top recommendations would be for businesses right now to keep their SEO effective during this AI evolution, what would those top recommendations be?
Yeah, good question. I think I'd go back to the basics, and that doesn't mean you cut off your SEO, but I would start by looking at my website. I would look at, do I have my services accurately reflected on their own individual pages? Do I have, if I'm a location based company, do I have my locations accurately reflected? Are those, weaved throughout my site to show where I do work and what work I do? I would start there. I would build out my services, my locations. Those are like kind of the core pieces of what make your business work. And then I would branch out from there. Are there resources I need to provide to show people how to work with me, or what my product or service is for and how it helps you? Are there FAQs I can add to those pages, that give additional context that could be found in an AI overview? Third, I would then go after kind of the higher funnel stuff through a blog. What are the questions directly related to what I do that are informational, knowing, pretty well that I'm not going to get probably immediate traffic from those posts, but you're going to probably get AI overview touch points there. And then number four, I would look into video. And again, I don't think you need to be a professional video editor to make video. People are making videos on their phones, and I think people appreciate kind of that realistic approach to video as well. So I think, work your way up to it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try doing some videos on maybe some of the questions around your company that are hard to answer in words. You know what I mean? That they could see you doing it and start building a following that way. And then lastly, just add to that diversification. If you are thinking about stopping paid ads or doing more, I would just consider paid ads as a nice additional alternative to SEO that gets you real estate on that main page. But yeah, that's where I would go. It'd be just that holistic approach. Is my foundation set on my site? Do I have keywords in the places that I need them to be? Am I explaining my products and services accurately? Do I have some additional resources, logs that answer those questions, videos, and probably a paid ad campaign. Again, if that works for your business.
If you found this video to be helpful, please make sure that you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you'll be notified when we put out more helpful content like this. And in this ever-evolving AI SEO landscape, it's more important than ever to make sure that your website is set up the correct way so that Google can understand the information on it and reward it with rankings and traffic. So if you want to learn how to make sure that your site structure is set up correctly, make sure that you watch this video where we go over from start to finish how to create and craft a good site structure that Google will love and reward with traffic and rankings. So click this video and I'll see you over there.